All right, I feel like at this point, everyone's seen those super cool e-foils, whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you've seen them. They're really popular, but they're also really expensive. And I have seen some people build some e-foils from the ground up for 2 to 3 grand, which is super cool. And I was going to do the same, but I'm a bike person. I've been on bikes my whole life. I haven't touched a board sport ever. So I'm going to try to build an e-bike foil. It's never been done before, really. So don't know what I'm doing. We're literally just going to try. I went on Facebook Marketplace, bought a $250 foil. Came with 2 extra wings, so we can mess around with some stuff. Um, that being said, we're literally just gonna get straight into the build. I don't know what I'm doing. So the current plan is to leave the back foil as it is. It's a production foil. We don't need to do anything to it. And we're just gonna build the front foil. So we're gonna take this extra rear wing that came with it, and it's gonna be our new front foil. Going into this portion of the build, I really didn't have a plan, but I did know that I wanted the front foil to control pitch. So I basically started building a mount for the front foil that would pivot, and you'll see how I controlled the pivot later in the video. But I do want to say right now that this is version 1 of this build. I plan on making a bunch of iterations to this, moving forward, making it better and better and better. Right now, as you can see, I'm kind of just using what I have. I'm using cheap stuff, and I'm just trying to make a version 1 prototype and start messing with some designs, because at this point, no one else has done something like this before, to my knowledge, so it's all uncharted territory from here on out. And I'm just doing what I think looks good and what I think might work. And as you can see here, I'm literally using cardboard to prop everything up and keep it straight. And that's just the level of precision of this whole project. Here I'm doing some CAD, better known as Cardboard Aided Design. I think that term is crowned by Grindhard Plumbing Co. At least that's how I know it. At this point, I finished it up, threw some loops on there to run some cable to, and now we need something to mount it to. So that brings us on to the frame. All right, here is the frame that we're going to be using for the electric foil bike. It's a Razor MX 350. It's just a pretty basic frame. We're not going to be using much of it. So yeah, I don't know. Let's just get to tearing into it. Here I realized that I might have been better off starting from scratch, because we're not going to be using much of this. Got this waterproof electrical box off Amazon. Not sure if it's going to work, but it was really cheap.
What's up everybody, welcome back to my laboratory where safety is number one priority.
All right, it's together. So here I went ahead and quickly threw it together. As you can see, the seat is being held on by some electrical tape and the box is being held in by a ratchet strap. So very, very janky, just to quickly test it, see how it works. You can see the clutch lever that I have hooked up to one side and a spring with paracord hooked up to the other. Also have an adjuster so I can hopefully adjust it on the fly. But yeah, this is just so we can go test it as is and see how it does. Hey, this isn't too bad. If you haven't seen my previous video where I built this 72 volt paddleboard, you should go check it out. This thing is really cool. And that's what we're using to test this in the video. But yeah, right now I'm putting it in the water and I pretty quickly realized that this box alone is not going to be enough to float it. If the battery, motor, and controller were in here and it just had the box, it would sink. So gonna have to add more flotation. But I also pretty quickly realized that it just has a lot more drag than I was anticipating, and also not as much lift as I thought. Original idea was just to throw a lot of power at it, and I thought that that would just be enough to get up out of the water. But after this test, I realized that I need some sort of body on this thing to help me build up speed on the water. And the current plan is literally just to put it on like a surfboard type paddleboard thing. That way I can test it really easily. And then in the future, I'll pretty much just shrink the body as much as I can. So it looks more like a bike instead of a e-foil board with a bike frame on top. Right now, basically trying to figure out a way to mount this box. So got calipers and a tape measure out here and just working on taking some dimensions of the frame and the box. And I'm gonna work up some mounts, 3D printed mounts for it. Also a quick look at the motor, the FlipSky 20 kilowatt motor. Got some 3D printed mounts on there. It's not quite all bolted down yet, but still need to finish bolting that down and then run the cables up to here. Then I gotta still kind of figure out all the wiring stuff for it and programming, because I haven't programmed that new motor yet. And then the big question is figuring out if that front wing is even gonna work. But, you know, we're just working at it. Slowly but surely, we will get this thing working eventually. Here are the 3D printed brackets. Here's the box, drilling some holes. So you can mount them on there like that. And then they will come up here, slide on like that. I also ended up painting the frame, but didn't record it. All right, here's the foil bike. Basically, for testing, we are going to put it in this cheap surfboard I got. I already got it marked up for the foil mast and the front wing thing. But yeah, basically gonna put this on the board so we can test it, get it all tuned, and then eventually work out a way to remove the board, because if it's on the board the whole time, at that point it's just a foil board with steering. So this is how this contraption currently sits, and it's actually been several months since this point. And a YouTuber I watch who goes by the name of RC Life On has built a eFoil bike similar to this one. So I'm going to play his video and kind of just criticize it, trying to figure out basically what not to do. So I hopefully don't make the same mistakes, which is very helpful. So this is his first time trying it, and he gets water in the throttle and crashes it. It's pretty funny. I just wanted to show it. We won't have this issue because we're using the FlipSky wireless waterproof remote. So something that he said in his video, and something that's pretty obvious after the fact, is he has too much buoyancy for water starts. So that's something we'll keep in mind for version 2. Obviously, version 1 we don't have to worry because we are not going to be starting out of the water. We're going to be starting via planing on the surfboard that we have. Another thing that he also points out in his video is there's actually a company that makes production foil bikes. I didn't know this at the time, but to be honest, I don't really like these. I think that they kind of suck. One of the big things that I think sucks about them is they're only 2.5 kilowatts. We're going to be using a 20 kilowatt motor, so that alone is going to be a huge difference. Nextly, the rear wing is insanely wide. I get that it's to make it easier to get up out of the water from a water start, but that kind of defeats the whole purpose of a foil, in my opinion. You can't carve it, you can't lean it over. Honestly, it looks pretty boring, other than this clip right here. This guy's surfing the wave. That looks pretty cool. The one thing that I do want to take from this design is the front foil system. See how it has a little paddle that rides on the surface of the water and holds the height perfectly? That's something that I want to copy basically one for one because it looks like it works really well. So moving forward for iteration 2, I am going to be doing that and mixed with a skinnier rear foil so you can carve it, and also 20 kilowatts of power. I still think that it's going to be really cool and still be, in a way, a world's first because no one else in their right mind is putting 20 kilowatts on a foil. That's just crazy. I'm the only person that would do something like that. It's kind of stupid, but yeah, should be really fun. And yeah, that's something that we will tackle in version 2 of this project.